All right, we are live. Hey everybody, Dan Dix here, reporting for Press for Truth. We're here in Chantilly, Virginia, covering the annual Bilderberg meeting, and we just had the participants list and the so-called agenda and participants list was just released. So today we're going to discuss this live. We're going to talk about what they have on the agenda for this year, who is going to be in attendance according to their official release. So I'll wait for a few more people to come online here because I want to have a discussion with you, the audience, and we'll go over all of this together, and you can ask questions. I saw a question there, it just disappeared, so I'm going to try to be quick with it. Yes, we were just kicked out. I'll talk about that a little bit while people are tuning in. We did stay at the Westfield Marriott last night and had some interesting conversations with the head of security, as a matter of fact. We were approached by him and his team. They came right up to us and sat down with us at the bar and said, "Gentlemen, just wanted to introduce myself. I'm the head of security here. Wanted to let you know we know who you are, and now you know who I am. And we just want to make sure there's not going to be any problems here, and you're not here to cause trouble." And of course, we said, "No, of course we're not here to cause trouble. We're journalists here doing a job just like you are." And he said, "Okay, that's fine. If we're on the same page then." And it was just interesting to have, that level of communication with the head of security here. Thank you, Smith Jones. Hit that like button, everybody. Please share this link now so people know that I'm live. Tweet it out on Twitter. Post it to your Facebook. Let people know that we're going to be live here for a little while discussing some of the topics here that were just released. So the official list has been released, and let me just hello, Truth Brown again. I will be paying as close attention to the chat as I can while we go over all of this. Be sure to get your questions in there. And if you can, I enabled the super chat feature, and I haven't, I don't know if it's working properly. So if anybody feels so inclined to try the super chat, just so I can see if it's working, and I would obviously appreciate your support in that regards. But I've never actually had one pop up, so I don't know if if it's actually working. But if anybody gets this, please try out the super chat, and we'll see if that's actually working. Hi Ed, hi Chrissy, glad to see you guys here. We're here in Chantilly, Virginia, again covering Bilderberg. For those of you who don't know, this is the same location that it was at in 2012, when we were here 5 years ago covering this, and. It's not the best location, to be honest, because of just the nature of the setup here at this particular hotel. The Bilderberg participants are going to be driving in and driving out. There's really nowhere for them to kind of walk around. So it makes it a little bit trickier to get the, one-on-one conversations. Again, it's not about going and confronting these guys. It's all about trying to open up a dialogue and gain some intel into what sorts of things are they discussing there. And that's sometimes, my aim here is, a lot of people don't realize the things you learn when you go to these things and the things you find out. And there's a lot of things that I've come to understand about Bilderberg in the world that nobody ever sees in videos, or, it just doesn't make it out there to the world. But I gain a lot of intel by talking to these billionaires and these industry leaders, and when you have the opportunity to actually discuss with them, it's pretty telling, to be honest. I've had I probably talked to maybe 20 or so Bilderbergers over my 11 years of covering this event, and almost all of them have a similar response. Usually is that they can't really discuss what's discussed there. Over the years of covering Bilderberg, my first one was in 2006 in Ottawa, Canada, and back then it was very different. There weren't a whole lot of journalists there. There was Jeffrey Tucker, Alex Jones, Daniel Estulon, and myself, and that was basically it. There was 4 of us there, and maybe 10 protesters or so. Here we are in 2017, and I could foresee hundreds of journalists showing up at this stage in the game, and potentially, 1,000 or more protesters, which just goes to show how much their exposure is increasing exponentially. And that's why I think they were forced to put out this website, kind of a hidden in plain sight sort of tactic where, you can only deny it for so long, but we've been onto it for so long now that they've officially had to, put out an official website. And let me see if I can turn the camera around here, and I'll show you what we've just got released today. So here is the participants list. And again, this is, let me see if I can set this down. So here we have the official list, as they say. And right off the bat, because I'm Canadian and a lot of my Canadian viewers want to get the Canadian perspective, I noted here that there's not a lot of Canadians this year. In fact, there are only, I think I counted 4, and one of them is Heather Reisman. She's the CEO of Indigo Books, and she's been here for decades. I mean, she's on the steering committee. She's involved with figuring out who to invite to these conferences. But some of the other names that I've noticed here are ones like this one here, Galen Weston. You may recognize that because he is the owner, CEO, and executive chairman of Loblaw Companies. This is a huge chain in Canada, for those of you who are not aware of who his connections are. This guy runs huge grocery store chains all over Canada. The other 2 notable names are in finance. We have, here we go, Heather Reisman. We have Bill Morneau and the head of, here we go, David McKay. He's the president and CEO of Royal Bank Canada. And we also have the other Canadian, let's see if I could find him here, Bill Morneau, and he is the Minister of Finance. So here at this year, we have some economic guys involved. And other notable names on this list, of course, you got the classic Henry Kissinger. He's always going to be in attendance for as long as he can. I suppose this is the first year that we're not going to see David Rockefeller or Brzezinski or any of those guys. And here is the official agenda list that's been published. And so we're going to go over this today. Let me turn the camera back around. And I want to get your guys' thoughts on this agenda list, and we'll go over some of the points. Again, let me know if we're coming through clear, if the connection is good, and if anybody feels so inclined to try that super chat feature. I'm really curious to see if I've enabled that correctly and if it's actually working. So if you feel so inclined, give the super chat feature a try, and I'm curious to see if that's going to work. Plus, we can always use your support and your donations so we can continue to come cover events like this. Okay, I'll quickly go over the list here, and then we'll break it down one by one. So number 1, we have the Trump administration. This is a progress report. The transatlantic relations. This is options and scenarios. The Transatlantic Defense Alliance. Bullets, bites, and bucks. Not sure what that's all about. Number 4, the direction of the EU. Number 5, can globalism be slowed down? Number 6, jobs, income, and unrealized expectations. Number 7, the war on information. Number 8 is why is populism growing? Number 9, we have Russia in the international order. Number 10, the Near East. Number 11, nuclear proliferation. And then number 12 is just China. And 13 is current events. Very broad topics there. So let's start with number 1, the Trump administration. Obviously, this is going to be a big topic of discussion this year with newly selected Donald Trump in office. And a friend of mine pointed out on this official list, there are a number of people who are very close to Donald Trump. So no, it doesn't appear that Donald Trump is here or is going to be here, but a lot of people working very close to him are. We have Nadia Shadlow. She's the Deputy Assistant to the President and the National Security Council. We have Wilbert Ross. He is the Secretary of Commerce. Joining us here this weekend, we also have H.R. McMaster. This is the National Security Advisor. Okay, we were just slightly interrupted there, but hopefully this is still going. On the same... Uh-oh, we lost the feed, it looks like. I should have put this on Do Not Disturb, my bad. So let me know if you guys are still in. Okay, back again. Is this on the same... let me know if this is on the same video or if YouTube just split it up into two videos. And we may have to start sharing another link. Okay, still here. Good to see. Glad we're still here. All right, where were we? We were talking about some of the names on this list who are directly tied to Donald Trump, who's going to be here. So yeah, the last one we just discussed before getting cut off there was Christopher Liddell, who is the assistant to President Trump and the director of strategic initiatives. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Is there a list of people attending I can access? I just got here. Yes, Peter, you can go to bilderbergmeetings.org, and they've just released a list a few hours ago. And the participants list is there, and the so-called agenda is there as well. Let's talk about some of the notable things on the agenda. No interruption on YouTube. Good to know, CIA Network. Thanks for pointing that out. You're welcome, Peter. Okay. If you're just tuning in, again, over the official list. This is the participants list, and here is the agenda. And some notable things right off the bat. I mean, the direction of the EU is interesting to me because we know that Brexit is an issue for the Bilderbergers. These are the guys who have designed the European Union and the euro. I mean, it's been openly admitted by one of the co-founders, Etienne Davignon, that they were instrumental in the creation of the euro and the European Union. And so when they're talking about the direction that the EU is heading, it's likely that they're concerned about Brexit because this is their vision and their dream that they've been working on for a long, long time. And sorry, I'll try to get into these questions before they fly by. As Kissinger dies this year, along with Rockefeller and Brzezinski, would you not also be skeptical? No. Well, I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that. It may be, well, the fact is these guys are really old, okay? Rockefeller just died. Brzezinski just died. Kissinger doesn't have a lot of time left. You know, George Soros is on his way out. Jacob Rothschild, the Queen. You know, a lot of these people are, slowly dying. I don't think there's a conspiracy there. I just think it's a natural stage of life. I mean, it's what we're getting into now is the passing of the torch. I did a video about this a few days ago, where it seems that yes, a lot of these guys who are in control right now are beginning to die off, but their visions and agendas are not going to die with them. As many of you know, the torch is often passed on to the next generation who've been raised up through their respective secret societies, or they're just, the children of some of these people. And the agenda continues. So the torch, as you can say, is going to be passed. And what frightens me about that is the fact that this new generation haven't experienced wars. They haven't, had the opportunity to have their moment to shine. And they're power-hungry people, just like their fathers. And so as this older generation continues to croak, I think we're going to see the new power-hungry generation take over. And that means that we're in a historical transitional phase of power in this period in time. Do you need this room? Am I okay to continue in here?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay,
I just gotta
thanks.
put the chairs in here.
No worries. Thank you. So yes, I think we're seeing a transition of power right now, behind the scenes with the death of a lot of these high-ranking official Bilderbergers. Again, the agenda doesn't die with them. They just they carry on, and it's all about finding out who the next generation is and what their plans are going to be. So let's get back to the list. And speaking of that, readjust here. So if you're just tuning in, guys, we're going over the participants list that was just released, and we're checking out the official agenda list. Questions like, can globalization be slowed down? A lot of people may be intrigued by this concept of why are they wondering if it could potentially be slowed down? Aren't these the globalists who are trying to speed it up? Perhaps that's the issue that they're wondering. Can globalization be slowed down? Yes. If no, how do we stop it? Perhaps that's what they're discussing. You see, that's what the issue here is when there's no transparency and elected officials are meeting in secret without publishing the meetings of the minutes. People are only left to speculate. That's all you. That's all you can really do at this stage in the game, and that's why we essentially come here to document exactly who's here, because when you see a discrepancy in the participants list, you start to question, why did they leave that guy's name out? But I saw him here. For example, I noticed on the participants list, as far as Canadians go, Andrew Scheer, the newly elected, it's tough to say. It was a close victory that he had to win the Conservative leadership. If we see him here, for example, 2 years before the next election, there's a pretty good chance he'll end up being the next prime minister. That's how these things go. Stephen Harper attended in 2003 in Versailles, France, and a few years later he was selected as Prime Minister of Canada. So if we do see him here, that will be interesting. Is Andrew Scheer there, the new Conservative leader in Canada? Yeah, we were just talking about that. I'm certainly going to be having my eyes out for him. He is not on the official list, but again, as we said, the official list is not always all that official. Certain names are often left out. So, yes, I'll be having a close eye out for Andrew Scheer. And again, even if he is here, it doesn't definitively mean that he is going to be the next, Prime Minister of Canada. But there's a pretty good chance, given their track record. This is what happened with Bill Clinton and Stephen Harper, as we talked about. I saw on the list Macro Solutions, and that was a long comment, and it already disappeared. Sorry, guys, I'm going to try to be quick with the comments and questions, because they do, they pop up and they disappear, so I'll try to keep a close eye on that. Again, if you're just tuning in, see if you can do the super chat. I'm not sure if it's working. There should be a little dollar symbol, and you can contribute like $1 or $2 or whatever. I'm just hoping somebody can try it out so I can see if it works. I've never had one pop up, so I'm not sure if I've enabled it correctly. So, plus, of course, we can use your support, as we are independent media here on the ground, covering all of this on our own expense. It's all coming out of my own pocket, obviously. I don't have any financial backers or funding, other than the wonderful sponsors who have joined us here at Press for Truth to help. But if you can hit that super chat button, let me know if that's working. That'd be awesome. What about Justin's puppeteer, Gerald Butts? Well, let's have a quick look for that. The names have been released, and it is all in alphabetical order. And I am not seeing a Butts. I'm not seeing a Butts. But as we said, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's not going to be in attendance. That's why we come to catch those discrepancies, and then to figure out why there was the discrepancy. Now, again, if you're just tuning in, we're going over the list as well as the agenda, and I'll get back to the agenda. The war on information is interesting. Surprised, I'm surprised Alex Jones is not all over that right now, saying, "Oh my God, the info war is one of the topics." But yeah, there is a war on information that these guys have to deal with. I mean, we know that over the last few years, there's been a lot of victories for us, really, when it comes to maintaining the freedom of the internet. SIPA, CISPA, ACTA, SOPA, PIPA. I can't even remember all of these ones. Daniel Boucher, thank you so much for the super chat. Good to know that actually works. Although your comment disappeared pretty quickly, so I thought it was going to stay there for a while. But good to know that it works. Thank you so much for that. Where were we? All right, let's just get on with more of the topics of discussion here that they've publicly released. Why is populism growing? Yeah, that's where we were. We were talking about the movement, the resistance that is happening. Oh yes, and the controlling of the internet. Films Max, thank you so much for the contribution. Glad to see that this is indeed working. Oil, yes, I didn't see who commented that, but absolutely. Again, we had some victories there when they've been working hard on shutting down the free flow of information on the internet with the blockages of all these bills that they were trying to pass. Is Jeff hungover? Yeah, he's a little bit hungover. No, he's a big boy. He can handle himself. You can scroll up the super chat. Oh, okay. Oh, thank you. I didn't realize I could do that. Excellent. Okay, good to know. So I can still scroll back and see the messages. Awesome. Okay, we're on to number 8 here. Why is populism growing? Of course, the reach, the coverage, let's say, of Bilderberg, I think, has been growing exponentially, and even just, these movements all around the world. We already talked, if you're just tuning in, about the direction of the EU and their concerns with Brexit, which I'm sure is a grave concern that's going to be on the topic as well. They don't put it here officially, but they just say direction of the EU. A lot of these are vague, like really vague, broad. It could mean a number of things, like China, for instance. That's a topic, just China. And current events. These are obviously really broad. It's tough to say, what they mean by that. Nuclear proliferation is an interesting one. Meaning the quick, I suppose the quickening of nuclear facilities, popping up all over the place. Perhaps, they're going to be talking about North Korea or other people who are working on these things. What do you guys think? Phil Max says, I believe nuclear bombs are a hoax. Well, that's an interesting concept. What about the footage of the tests in the 50s and 60s, like at Bikini and stuff like that? Some of those huge mushroom clouds when they were testing nukes back in the day. Isn't it bizarre that they make them and then just say, we'll drop the mother of all bombs, for instance, like Trump did. But a nuke is just too crazy. So we'll just go ahead and drop the mother of all bombs. We have one here in Ohio at Super Mount. X-Ray 22 says, I think nuclear war is a way to stop the enslavement of the human race, says Smith Jones. Any surprises on the official guest list? Yes. There was one surprise. Let me see if I could look them up here. I don't recall the guy's name, so I'm just trying to find it really quickly here. But essentially, it's the CEO and chairman of CERN. the guy who deals with the Hadron Collider. He's here. So that's very interesting. Again, I'm scrolling through the... Here we go. Let me show you on the list. So yeah, this one definitely stood out. Fabiola Gionati, I'm not sure how to pronounce that, Director General of CERN. Very interesting that person is here. Not good. CERN is dangerous, says Raspberry. Yeah. For those of you who don't know about, I'm sure most people watching this are well aware of the Hadron Collider and their experiments that they're doing with particle acceleration, smashing particles and trying to, discover the secrets of the universe. And a lot of people, are concerned that this could create a black hole or something. Hey, Dan, are you going to post the guest list on the PFT site? Yes, I will try to do that as soon as I get an opportunity to. It's tough for me to post stuff to the website while I'm here on site because it's essentially just me doing everything. So I'll do the videos and then I'll try to post the participants list. I got it out on Twitter as soon as it was out there. So be sure to follow me on Twitter, Dan Dix PFT. Twitter at DanDixPFT, and there I've put out a link to this list and this participants list if you want to check it out for yourself. And yeah, I will get it on the website as soon as I can. So somebody was asking about people on the participants list who stood out. Yeah, the director of CERN. I mean, that's bizarre and interesting that he's going to be here. I remember last year they had that astronaut. I don't remember the guy's name, but he's a famous astronaut, so it's interesting. Yeah, that's one of the ones that certainly stood out for me. Enjoying your content. Thank you very much, Goat Man, I believe is the name. Appreciate it. Appreciate the support. Let me know if you guys have any other questions about the participants list or the agenda. Again, we have an interesting one. Russia in the international order. Interesting language that they're using here. Questions like, can globalization be slowed down? Why is populism growing? But why is Russia not fitting into the international order? I shouldn't even assume that that's the question. Let's just say Russia in the international order is a topic of discussion. And rightly so. A lot of things going on in the world right now. With Russia. As you know, I think this whole Russia hacking the election meme is getting out of control. The mainstream media is pushing this concept that they hacked the election, and there's a lot of people who are doing research into the murder of Seth Rich, DNC staffer, who it is believed is the WikiLeaks source. And if this is true, if Seth Rich was, in fact, murdered because he was the leaker, that would blow apart this whole Russian hacking narrative. We don't know if that's true right now. The family of Seth Rich has asked that people stop looking into this, which is interesting. Perhaps they were contacted and approached, or perhaps they're just grieving family members who, want to get to the bottom of it in the right way without, so-called conspiracy theorists muddying the waters. But at any rate, the topic of Russia, hacking the election, being pushed around in the mainstream media is huge, especially if this DNC leak turns out to be true. So Russia in the international order is the topic. But considering what's going on behind the scenes with the death of Seth Rich, if it's true, if it's true, that would be absolutely huge. So perhaps they are discussing that. Forget the U.S. government. Look to the Vatican. Yeah, that's true. No doubt. We are here at Bilderberg covering specifically Bilderberg right now, and I do want to point out, guys, that there is an inner circle within the inner circle. Okay, I don't think that everyone who attends the Bilderberg conference is, interested in any kind of a nefarious agenda or necessarily trying to set up a world government or anything like that. In fact, it's likely, and this is pure speculation, admittedly, but according to my research over the last 11 years, it's my opinion that probably around 80 to 90% of the participants are generally good people who were just invited. Remember, you have to get invited to these things. I see Bilderberg as somewhat of a kind of like a recruitment center where they bring people into the fold who have influence in the world, and they want to maybe scope out who's willing to be pulled into the inner clique, if you will. And I think a lot of the things that are discussed at the official meeting, around the round table, if you will, are not some of the things that are going to, some of the more nefarious plans for a world government, and the formation of these unions and things like that. I happen to feel, again, admittedly, this is purely speculation, but I happen to feel that the real things get done at Bilderberg when somebody like a Kissinger or a Rockefeller, when he was alive, would take some of these young guys aside, maybe here at the meeting, and just have a discussion at the bar privately with one of the attendees and make some contacts and kind of almost like engage to figure out if this person is worthy of being entered into the inner circle of Bilderberg. So, again, you have to be invited to this. It's generally around 120 to 140 people, and I would say there's an inner circle within the inner circle, and my guess is that it's around 80 to 90% of the people there are just going because they were invited. They want to check it out. It's an interesting globalist think tank. Heck, if I was invited, I would go check it out. I'd be very interested to see what these guys are saying. I wouldn't follow their Chatham House rules and their concepts of what you hear at Bilderberg you can't discuss. In fact, I'll show you their official stance on that. Let's just read what it says here at the bottom of the list. It says it was founded in 1954. The Bilderberg meeting is an annual conference designed to foster dialogue between Europe and North America. Every year, between 120 to 140 political leaders and experts from industry, finance, academia, and the media are invited to take part in the conference. About 2/3 of the participants come from Europe, and the rest are from North America. Approximately a quarter from politics and government, and the rest are from other fields. The conference is a forum for informal discussions about major issues facing the world. The meetings are held under the Chatham House rule, which states that participants are free to use the information received, but neither the identity nor the affiliation of the speakers nor any other participants may be revealed. Thanks to the private nature of the meeting, the participants are not bound by the conventions of their office or by pre-agreed positions. As such, they can take time to listen, reflect, and gather insights. There is no desired outcome. No minutes are taken and no report is written. Furthermore, no resolutions are proposed, no votes are taken, and no policy statements are issued. So, of course, we are going to have to just take their word for it because there's no official press, reporting on this from the inside, which should raise some red flags for you guys. When a lot of the heads of the media are in there, and we find out that they're bound to these rules to not discuss what's going on there, that's interesting to say the least. Some of you may have saw my confrontation is more of just I questioned the former Premier of Ontario, Mike Harris, about his attendance, and he gave me the classic Fight Club line. What happens at Bilderberg, we don't discuss what happens what happens at Bilderberg stays in Bilderberg, and then he just turned around and walked away. Did you have any troubles so far there? Have you gotten arrested yet? No, thank God I have not. But if you're just tuning in, I talked about in the beginning of the broadcast how we were pegged right away. Had an amazing conversation with the head of security. How he informed us that as soon as we walked in, the facial recognition systems caught our faces, and he already knew who I was. But for example, I was with Luke Radowski, Jeff Berwick, and Tim Pool, and they had to look up Tim Pool. Hey, Lee, hashtag free dicks. We'll get to that. Remind me to talk about that. But they mentioned to Tim that they picked up his face on the facial recognition, and then were able to find out who he was just by a quick search. So they looked him up once he walked in here. Lee was posting the hashtag free dicks a couple of years ago at the Copenhagen meeting. I was arrested and thrown in jail there. We questioned some of the steering committee members about, we really just opened up. We wanted to open up the dialogue with them. Myself and Luke walked up to them and just kind of said, "Hey, how are you ladies doing? Can we have a talk?" And all of a sudden, hotel security came up and basically told us to delete everything off of our phones, and we explained to them, we're not going to stop filming, and we're not going to delete the stuff, but we'll respect your wishes for us to leave, and we'll just go ahead and get out of here. And they said, no, you can't go anywhere now. And it was like, wait a minute, you're hotel security, you don't have the authority to detain me. But they did just that. Luke and Lena, who we were there with, managed to escape out the door, but they snagged me. I almost got out, and they grabbed me by the backpack and pulled me back in. And luckily, Luke and Lena didn't abandon me. They stayed there, and I tried to do a little spin move and get away from the hotel staff, but they held me physically and detained me until the police showed up. The police interrogated me outside, it's all on video, and was demanding me to delete the footage and shut it all off, and I had to explain to them, I can't, this is for my safety and for my protection. And that's when they just said, okay, you guys are under arrest. And while we were in jail there in Copenhagen, the word got out that we were arrested, and quickly the hashtag free dicks started going around on Facebook, and people figured out the phone number of the station that we were at, and calls started coming in to these guys. And it's neat to think that while I was sitting there in that cell, the phone's probably ringing off the hook, and these guys are constantly getting asked about why we are being detained, and they're probably thinking, who the heck are these guys? So we ended up getting out, and that was all thanks to you, the viewers, and people like Lee and others coming up with that hashtag free dicks, and it just caught on, and luckily they didn't detain us for very long. They tried to pin us on drug charges, believe it or not. They tried to suggest that we were, that we had drugs on our backpack. But obviously we're not going to be traveling to an international country to cover Bilderberg with any drugs on us, so it was an attempted setup, and ended up getting thrown in jail. And this is how it's been going for us. The following year, I think it was, or at least, last year anyways, for those of you who have been following in Germany, wow, did we ever get harassed and hassled. I was detained 7 or 8 times within a period of less than 24 hours. They were instructed specifically that anytime they see my face, they had to come up to me and ask me for my ID. They stormed into my hotel room. They interrogated me in the room. Came in. They're not allowed to do that. I found out later, because I'm in another country. I don't know the rules. The cops come into my room. I assume in Germany they're allowed to do that. He slams me up against the wall, tells Luke to sit down on the edge of the bed, and he starts going through our stuff. And he starts asking me all kinds of questions, taking down the info. I later discovered by talking to locals, local Germans, that no, they had no right to do that. They broke the law. They need a warrant to enter a home or a place of residence. In fact, that's something that Germans hold dear to them and are very serious about in regards to the police not having access to their private homes, But they violated our rights in that regards, and then continued to detain me, and they in fact warned me that if I came within I think they said 100 meters of the hotel, I'll be arrested, and I won't be able to provide any more coverage for the entire duration of the weekend. So they threatened me with arrest if I dared to come back. I had just flown halfway around the world. There was no way I was going to just sit around and do nothing and not go back. So, of course, I went back to continue my coverage, and nothing happened. I called their bluff. They didn't do anything. And I ended up having more discussions. I talked with, I don't remember his name, but he's a billionaire banker, Jacob something. I got a fantastic discussion with him, that I filmed. That was a good one, too. I had my camera. He knew I was filming. He said, can we discuss this off the record? He was willing to talk if the camera wasn't rolling. So I said, sure, I'll hit stop. And he's like, how do I know you actually stopped it? So I showed him my phone, and I said, look, recording, not recording. Recording, not recording. So now it's not recording. And he's like, okay. And as I'm putting the phone back down, I hit the button. So it's recording again. And then we just continued, we walked and talked for a little while. And, I'll maybe I'll try to find these videos after I'm done with this, and we'll post them as links in the description below so you can see that one. Very interesting how that turned out. But that was back in Germany where we were getting harassed. This year, it's different so far. As I said, we just sat down and had an open discussion with the head of security. In fact, I was just kicked out of the hotel, but before I was kicked out, I wanted to grab a coffee, and they were just like, no, everything is down. Everything's closed down. Don't you see? We're on lockdown. Police dogs walking around. And so, I walked out back into the lobby, and the head of security guy says, what do you need, Dan? Did you want something? I said, yeah, I was just hoping to get a coffee. He said, come with me. He brought me back in, and he said, get this guy what he wants. And they they made me my coffee, and then he escorted me to my room to make sure I could get my bags, and escorted me out of there. Maybe they were just playing friendly cop, that whole good cop, bad cop thing. Perhaps their approach, their logic, their what they were trying to do in approaching us was to bring a human interaction side to it, so that we wouldn't do anything. We're not here to cause trouble in the first place. We're never going to do anything. But they don't know that, right? They have a concern that I'm a troublemaker. So perhaps he introduced myself to just add that element of humanity, thinking that if I see him as just a guy. He talked about his children. He told me that, they've woken him up to the dangers of fluoride and stuff like that, and he pays attention to this stuff. He said his kids are basically fans of our stuff. Not fans, but they pay attention. In fact, the head of security told me this morning, his kids watched my video last night of me and Jeff talking about things in the lobby, and he said, hey, man, that was a great video. My kids called me up and said, that was great. One guy was a little bit drunk, but the other guy was pretty good. So very different this time around. Alan Ewert, thank you so much. Thanks for the work you do. Love your channel. Thank you so much for the super chat donation. Very appreciated. All right, let's get back to, Drunk Berwick for the win. Yes, let's get back to the list. Again, if you happen to just be tuning in, we've been going over the official participants list, which I did notice. We'll get back to the fact, that there's only a few notable Canadians here, which is interesting. And again, 578. 5. Can globalization be slowed down? 7. The war on information. And 8. Why is populism growing? Exactly, Lee. Those three right there are very telling about what they're dealing with. Can globalization be slowed down? The war on information, and why is populism growing? The war on information is one they've been dealing with for quite some time. As I said, we had some major victories with the defeating of these bills they're trying to pass, to put it pen to paper, to try to restrict the free flow of information online. We blocked CISPA and SOPA and ACTA and PIPA, and it doesn't mean that their goals of blocking the free flow of information has stopped. They're still going to be trying to achieve that, certainly. So that's why that's on the discussion here. But why is populism growing? Along with the question, the statement, the war on information, and the question, can globalization be slowed down, is very, very interesting. It seems we're almost at a fork in the road, a historical part where, as they are continuing to build this vision, this dream of a global government, the resistance has been right there along with it all along, and we have been growing exponentially. This is a concern for them. In fact, Luke Rudowski, and I had a discussion with the steering committee last year, essentially off the record, and they said to us straight up, they're like, "We're not the problem. You guys are the problem." We said, "What do you mean by that?" They're like, "We're just here discussing ideas. You guys are the ones creating a rift between us, with this." And we said, "Okay, how about we just open up the dialogue then? Why not add some transparency if that's your concern? And let's open up the dialogue, and let's end the speculation about what goes on at Bilderberg. Let's talk about it." Obviously, they're not willing to do that. They just kind of wanted to point out that we're the problem for coming here, and they are not the problem. Chat's no fun. I'm not arguing with statists. Yeah, I hear you. All right, we've been going for 36 minutes. Why did their Agenda 2020 fail? Well, I'm not sure that it did. Leave Trump alone. He ain't bad, says the Domatis. I'm not sure how to pronounce that. Child psychology. Truth isn't the problem. It's the solution. Sorry, guys. I've been missing a lot of comments here, it seems. Let me scroll back and see if we can find some questions. And again, we'll go over the participants list some more, and also some of these topics on the agenda for this year. Again, if you're just tuning in, we're here at Chantilly, Virginia, covering the annual Bilderberg conference. We're still a day away. They're just putting up the fences now and debugging the place. And some of these guys will start rolling in tomorrow. So my hope is to be able to get on film a lot of these attendees, so that we can find the discrepancies in the participants list. So again, it hasn't even started yet. We're just here to kind of gather our intel and come up with a plan. When we come to these things, we never know you don't know what you're going to get, right? I remember when we covered it in England, it ended up being, we were in the middle of a field, a muddy field, a couple 100 feet away from the actual building, and didn't have any opportunity whatsoever to film any of the attendees coming or going. That was a disappointment, but before going there's no way I could possibly know that was going to be the scenario. You just gotta go. You just gotta be there, and you never know what you're going to get. But just by being here, hopefully, again, you never know. We may find some discrepancies in the participants list. If you don't come and inquire and do the job of the mainstream media, you're not going to figure out what's going on here. Again, is this a place where they should be able to discuss things frankly, openly? A lot of people would argue that there's nothing wrong with that, and they're right to an extent. I mean, sure, organizations like Bilderberg are popping up all the time, and it's possible that now that they're known publicly, and perhaps in a few years from now, it's going to get to the point of being like a G7 or G20 type meeting, where they're going to have like thousands of protesters showing up, and maybe even people descending into violence and things like that. Well, at that point, it's possible they'll just move on to a new group, that will be very secretive to discuss these things that won't be discovered for another 50 years. Again, Bilderberg was founded in 1954, and it's really not until decades later that it's been exposed to the extent that it is. I mean, guys like Jeffrey Tucker have really paved the way, back in the day with this stuff. Daniel Echelon, Jeffrey Tucker, and even Alex Jones. Back in the day, this used to be their big, thing of the year to cover. I haven't seen any of their correspondence here this year or much coverage. Maybe they're not interested anymore, or maybe it's hard for them to report on all the Trump ties here. But hey, I don't want to speculate. Not going to be at G7. It's still the same. They could have had another meeting. Jim Tucker, yes. Sorry, good call, Lee. I keep messing that up because of the other Tucker guy, who's a bit of an SJW, but we'll leave that for another discussion. Sorry, guys. Chat's flying through here. Not going to be G7. It will stay the same. More tech, that's all. Carp and Thiel on the steering committee. That's true. Interesting that Peter Thiel has been elevated, could you say, to a steering committee position. Any Canadians there? No, Jim Tucker wasn't the SJW. Jeffrey Tucker. Yeah, Canadians are here, but not very many. As we noted, let's just go over it. We have, if you guys want to see this list for yourself, I do have it posted to my Twitter channel, to Dan Dix PFT. And they had the countries listed here, which is convenient. Here we go. Thanks, Lee. Dave McKay, Bill Marnew, Heather Reisman. Okay, that disappeared already, but we'll find it right here. They have them all listed by country. And as I said, I was surprised going through this. Here's the guy from CERN. Again, we talked about that earlier. Very interesting that the Director General of CERN is here. Who else do we have? Look, I'm almost halfway down the list, and we haven't even come across a Canadian yet. And when I was first going through this, I was like, wow, that's interesting. Here we go. David McKay, President and CEO of Royal Bank of Canada. So we have two finance guys, David McKay, and here we have Bill Marnew. Yeah, he is the Minister of Finance. So interesting. Economic guys, head of Royal Bank, and Bill Marnew, Minister of Finance. And then we can't forget, of course, there's Heather Reisman. She is the chair and CEO of Indigo Books and Music. And a lot of people might think that has to do with the control of information. She's the CEO of Indigo, but she has other ties. She funds a I can't remember what it's called now. Don't quote me on this, but she's funding. Oops, let me turn this around. Some sort of in Israel, they're having it's like a pre-soldier training camp that the Reismans have been funding for a long time, funding basically the Israeli army, I suppose you could say. So interesting ties there. And then the last Canadian, or at least the other one we have here on the list, which is interesting, is Galen Weston. Here it is. Let me show you. Galen Weston, CEO and Executive Chairman of Loblaws. And correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm not sure if they're also who owns President's Choice. I thought he was, but I could be wrong. Maybe somebody could check that out. What else Weston Galen has got his hands into? Because it's interesting that it's a couple of economic guys and then some guy who owns some grocery store chains. Okay, there's a few topics on the agenda list that we haven't covered yet. Such as, okay, that's the participants list. The war on information we talked about, why is populism growing, Russia and the international order, the Near East. I really don't know what to make of that one, guys. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. The Near East. What do you think that means? So let me know in the comments section below, and we'll talk about it. China and current events, obviously very, very broad, really broad. These things could mean anything. China was on the topic of discussion last year as well. Somebody comments, current events is where CERN is slotted. Again, one of the ones that stood out here, yes, is the director of CERN, that Hadron Collider experiment, potentially creating a black hole and wiping out all of humanity, or discovering the secrets of the universe by cracking open some of these particles. Tough to say. They have a new accelerator. I didn't know that. Weston was made an officer in the Order of Canada in 1990, says Dave Parkinson. He was awarded the Order of Ontario in 2005. Thanks for that, Dave. Very interesting. Weston is also a significant contributor to the Fraser Institute. Thank you, Dave Parkinson, for the info. What do you think about the occult stuff, Dan? Asks Joan Smith. There is absolutely no doubt that a lot of the puppet string pullers, as I often call them, are heavily steeped in the occult. This isn't conspiracy theory, it's fact. I mean, it's been documented. When you have some of these, types of people showing up to Bohemian Grove and Skull and Bones Society, for example, and engaging in ritualistic ceremonies, like the cremation of care at the Bohemian Grove. Again, this is not conspiracy theory. This is something these people engage in. They do what's called a cremation of care ceremony. And again, I find that is similar to Bilderberg, where it's like it's like an Illuminati training camp. Okay, where they're bringing people into the clique and seeing, who's willing to go along with certain things. And I think Bohemian Grove and a lot of that occult stuff is similar. They'll invite you in and see who's willing to take it to that next level. And the cremation of care ceremony is all about burning an effigy of a body. That they make a paper mache of a person and they put it on the fire and they burn it in the cremation of care ceremony. And it's almost like killing off your God-given conscience. And if you're willing to do that, then you may be the kind of person who can carry out some of their agendas. Why the elites does not permit us access to the South Pole. Again, people asking about flat Earth theory is a deeper rabbit hole. I've never discussed flat Earth in my videos for good reason. Maybe it's time I do, though, because the PSYOP is getting so massive, it's actually having its desired effect. There's a few PSYOPs I've been wanting to cover. Flat Earth and the Mandela effect, and also a lot of these hoaxes, so-called hoaxes, where people think everyone's an actor and fake blood is used. There's a lot of these things I want to expose in the near future. Berwick says, I mentioned the questions you guys asked. I don't know what you mean by that. Oh, there's Jeff. Mentioned that we asked to question some of the attendees. Yes, Jeff, thanks for pointing that out. When we were getting kicked out, again, the security was being pretty friendly with us. I don't know if it's a good cop, bad cop thing, but we threw it out there. We put in a request to maybe have a discussion with some of them, and he answered absolutely not. But he said it's not my will. This is just the instructions that they give us when they come here. That nobody's allowed to discuss anything, even staff. You can't talk to these people. In fact, when I attended in 2006, I spoke with some of the security guards there, and they told me straight up, this is really interesting. One of the guys told me they were instructed to wear all black This guy who was working at the hotel in Ottawa didn't even own black pants. He had to go out and buy himself a pair of black pants to work that day. They were instructed not to make eye contact with them and to not talk to them at all, but to not even make eye contact. This was the staff at the hotel in Ottawa that I interviewed who told me. They're like, yeah, I was in there covering it. Yeah, these guys came in. I'm told just to look at the ground, don't talk to them, don't ask them questions, don't make eye contact, and wear all black. Now, oops. Now we have, security guards being friendly with us. Like I said, the guy bought me a coffee, and he was thanking us over and over about, that we were being cool. Again, could be this good cop, bad cop tactic to bring the humanity side to it. Me and Jeff were talking about the possibility of that. The head of security came up to us and, introduced himself. And maybe in his mind, if we're the troublemakers, then he maybe wanted to bring a human element to it. And, so that we would not engage in any troublemaking as he fears we are here to do, which obviously we are not. That's not our intention or our aim or our goal. Problems happen when we come here. They're not created by us. They're not caused by us. But yeah, bad things happen. I've been thrown in jail. I've been detained. I've been harassed. I've been tried to set up on drug charges. Not because of my doings. I'm just here. I'm just a journalist. I'm just asking questions. Fake terror is real news. Planet Earth is Illuminati. Excuse me, guys. Okay. If you have any more questions about the official participants list, let me know. Again, I have it on my Twitter right now, DanDixPFT, at DanDixPFT, and you can find this official list, and they also have the agenda. I did notice here something new, media contact. Look at this. I will be doing this as soon as I get off this broadcast, and perhaps some of you should do the same. Contact media at bilderbergmeetings.org. And we'll see if we can maybe set up some official interview with a spokesperson. Okay, I saw a question come up. Any comments on David Rockefeller's death? Yeah, thank you, Prab A. We discussed that a little bit earlier in the broadcast. In fact, I did a video about it a few days ago. No, actually, that was about the passing of Brzezinski, but it goes for the same for Rockefeller. I think we're in a transitional historical phase of a transition of power right now. And when you see David Rockefeller die, Brzezinski die, Kissinger is going to croak any day. I mean, don't take that as a threat now. They're CIA or CSIS or whoever's watching this. But he's on his way out soon. Jacob Rothschild's pushing his 90s. A lot of these guys who have been the top of the pyramid, you want to call it, the puppet string pullers, are about to croak and are dying, like Brzezinski and Rockefeller. But the vision doesn't die with them. The agendas have been carrying on. This is an old agenda, guys. It spans not just decades, perhaps not just centuries, maybe even thousands of years that the agenda has continued to move towards a global government, one world cash system, one world army, one world religion. And a lot of people wonder, okay, well, what's wrong with globalization? Can't we all just get along? What's wrong with being one big happy family? Well, to me, I would rather see 7.5 billion individuals on this planet, free, sovereign, thinking individuals, rather than 7.5 billion individuals who are united under a singular consciousness, essentially, and answering to a global authority figure. I don't think that's a good direction to go in. However, it is the direction that things are going. Globalization is inevitable. It is happening. Yeah, that's just a fact. And that's why we see questions that they have here. Why is populism growing? Can globalization be slowed down? Topics like the war on information. They're dealing with this. D. Vincent W. The Amero. You know, it's been proven that the Bilderberg members were the ones responsible for the formation of the European Union and the Euro. The concept of the Amero we covered greatly in our film United We Fall, where we talk about this concept of a North American Union and the coming together of Canada, U.S., and Mexico into this a union very similar to the European Union. You could use that as a blueprint, essentially. And certainly that's been one of the agendas as well. A lot of these things have to be done incrementally. In the example of these unions, they don't just come about, overnight. We tracked this movement towards the NAU all the way back to the General Agreement on Trade and Tariffs in the late 50s, moving on up to the Free Trade Agreement, on up to NAFTA, the North American Free Trade Agreement, which led to the SPP, the Security and Prosperity Partnership. And then they had to rebrand it as the North American Leaders Summit. And, it's the names have changed over time, but the agendas remained the same. It's all about unification. It's all about bringing everything together under this global umbrella, but it has to be done incrementally. When you try to just take it by brute force, like Hitler tried to do, just kind of go for it, it doesn't work out. I think the elites learned a valuable lesson for them in the attempt of Hitler's takeover, that it has to be done through stealth. It cannot be done through force. The resistance will just rise up and defeat it. So now they have to take over the education system, take over the media, and turn it around so that people are essentially begging for their own enslavement. Not just unaware, but conditioned to the point that they think it's a good thing to unify into a global, singular, one world order, because that's how we've been conditioned to operate, through the education system, through the control of our media. And it's precisely people like the Bilderberg Group who are doing these things. We can document it. It's documentable. Okay, lots of comments going by. Taking over the food, GMOs. Absolutely. That's a, topic we cover a lot. When you control food, you control life. You control absolutely everything. And absolutely, that's a huge part of what's going on. Monsanto is, let's just say it, is an evil corporation that wants to control every single organic, bio, plant life, you name it, anything that's alive, essentially, wants to be controlled by them. Okay. What? You got something against Jones? Says the Domantis. I'm not sure if you're talking to me or if that was somebody else's comment. Banks are stronger than armies. What are Prince Bernhardt's ties to Bilderberg? Okay. Going off the top of my head, it's hard to recall all of these facts, but I'll point you to my film, actually, The Turning Point, which we made in 2012 as a result of our coverage of this very same meeting in this very same location here in Chantilly, Virginia. We covered it in 2012. In the beginning of that film, again, it's called The Turning Point. Maybe somebody could grab a link to the film and put it in the chat. I'd strongly encourage you to check that one out. We get into Prince Bernhardt's ties in the beginning, the Nazi connections, and his involvement with the formation of the group. So that's within the first 5 or 10 minutes of the film. We go over that. Again, that's called The Turning Point, and we've put that out there on YouTube for free, as we do all of our videos and all of our films. So I'd strongly recommend you guys, if you want to know about Bilderberg, and especially, we really focused on the Canadian connection as well in that film. what do they have in store for Canada? Because I think in the eyes of the elite, we've been chilling out up here for far too long in their minds. I think the United States had their 9/11, and Europe's going through its problems. London had its 7/7, and I think they're starting to look to Canada to say, okay, they've been chilling out far too long. It's time to get them whipped into the shape as far as the New World Order. And that's why you have guys like George Soros meeting up with Justin Trudeau, for example. We covered that extensively in a video I did about Soros. Can't remember the name now, but just look it up. We exposed George Soros' ties to Canada and his attempts to bring down this country from the inside, funding all these leftists and working with Trudeau on the immigration side of things, with welcoming in thousands and thousands of refugees. Not so many GBR reps this year. Not sure what you mean by that. Quantum deep learning networks. That is why CERN is there. Interesting. Yeah, that could be. Okay, sorry guys, going quick. With the recent grand scale of cyber attacks, what about the lack of representation at Bilderberg this year of cyber tech data corporations, Google, Apple, Facebook? Very good point. There are a few here. Let's get back to the list. Yeah, in fact, it was actually in 2012 where we saw a lot of these tech guys. Like 2012 was one of the ones where I said, wow, they've got all the internet guys here. And yeah, you're right. This year, we're not seeing a lot of those names, which again is kind of telling to where things might be heading in the near future from now, 6 months down the road, a year down the road. Back when they had all those guys, it was shortly after that we saw those, SIPA, POPA, PIPA, ACTA, all these bills trying to slow down the free flow of information online. So now when we see guys from CERN there, the only Canadians, well, not the only, but it seems that the majority of Canadians here are involved in finance. It's interesting to see where that's going. No need for the tech guys to show up, says Richie. It's all in motion. We're simply waiting for the crash. The New World Order is going to be techno-fascism, total control, virtual. Yes, they have an issue right now. In fact, one of the topics, number 7 right here, is the war on information. That's literally a topic of discussion here. And who knows, maybe that means dealing with guys like me, people who are exposing what's going on here. People have said before, what kind of things do you expose when you go to these things? Well, lots of things. I mean, we gain a lot of information just by talking to these people. A lot of things that people have no clue about, have never even made onto video. I did a good video exposing the fact that the Iraq War was discussed at Bilderberg before it happened. I think I called that video Bilderberg Documents Leaked. I don't know, look it up, Bilderberg Documents Leaked Iraq War. You'll find the video. And I pointed out there that there was a huge leak of some of these meetings leading up to around 99, 2000, and sure enough, they were discussing going into Iraq. Actually, it was just following right around 9/11 where they were discussing going into Iraq, and then sure enough, a couple of years later in 2003, they did just that, and we proved that this was a topic of discussion at Bilderberg, but it's not just a topic of discussion. It was they go watch the video and you'll see what I'm saying. They were attempting to influence certain key people to make them think that going into Iraq is a good thing. In fact, they were talking about weapons of mass destruction, Saddam Hussein owning weapons of mass destruction at Bilderberg. As we all know, it came out later that that was an entire farce. It was not true, and it was all a lie to go in there. They were telling people at the meeting that this is what we got to do. Back in, I think it was 2000 or 2001. But again, check that video out. It's called Bilderberg Documents Leaked and something to do with Iraq War. I can't remember the title, but you'll find it. Iraq didn't have a central bank. Kemal Sam, thank you for the comment. That's absolutely, a very good point. Rothschild-controlled centralized banks are being set up all around the world, and there's still a few countries that do not have them, like Syria and Iran and North Korea, I think, and a few others. And yeah, absolutely, that's a big part of getting in there. Is setting up that system of fiat control. When they talk about the war on information and globalization and all these tech guys, current events. I wonder if they're going to be discussing. I'm just curious now, just openly discussing this. What their thoughts are on the cryptocurrency movements, Bitcoin, for example. Doing what it's been doing over the last few months or years. It'd be interesting to know their take on that. Dave Parkinson says Ethereum. Yeah, that's an interesting one. The war on info is fake news. Dan, after Bilderberg, I would like to talk to you in detail about slowing down globalization. Why the UK, spelling, by the way, but my plan to reverse it. What is the best way to contact you privately? Thank you, David, for the comment. You can reach me at dan@pressfortruth.ca. Yeah, let me know what you have in mind. Shout out to Jim Tucker's Bilderberg Day, one reporter's 25-year battle to shine the light on the world government. Absolutely. Huge shout out to Jim Tucker, who really paved the way for guys like me to be able to come and do things like this. I had the pleasure of meeting him a number of times. We worked together in 2006 when we were there in Ottawa covering Bilderberg. And then I saw him here in Chantilly, Virginia in 2012. I interviewed Jim Tucker, in 2012. And that is on there, on my channel. You can find that. Smith is asking, do you have a Twitter or something? My Twitter handle is DanDixPFT. We also have our Press for Truth Twitter account, so you can find me at Press for Truth or at DanDixPFT. And I posted this official list there. So if you want to see it right now and ask me some questions about it, go to Twitter, check it out, pull up the list, find some names, find some agenda topics. Let me know. We'll talk about it. Again, we can't do this work without the support of you guys, the viewers. So for those of you who have contributed to the Super Chat, thank you so much. I'm glad to see that is working. And if you do feel so inclined, I'll put links in the description below once the video is done uploading to where you can donate or contribute or become a patron at patreon.com/pressfortruth because I need all the support I can get to continue to cover these types of events. It's all out of my own pocket. I don't have financial backers. All I have is the support of you, the viewers, and the support of our fantastic sponsors like Liberty Farms and Skunk and Panda Extracts and One World Digital Solutions. These are some of the guys who are making it possible for me to cover these sorts of things. So check out the links in the description as well. I don't want to jump into a huge plug here, but a huge shout out to the guys who are making it possible for me, like Chris from One World Digital Solutions. This is he offers one of those Android boxes, so you can get around the cable companies and the satellite companies, and have incredible amounts of savings if you want to get access to the kind of content that you want to watch, your own, the YouTube channels you like, the podcasts you like, and if you're into live sporting events or, you want to get the UFC or the hockey game or whatever, you can get all that stuff too. And it's great to go around the NSA because you don't have to get a smart TV. You could get this box. So check the links in the description. You can actually save $50 US off the price of the box if you use promo code PFT. And again, it's thanks to our sponsors like One World Digital Solutions who make it possible for us to be here. So check out the links in the description once we're done. And again, thank you to everyone who's become a patron and a supporter and who has donated, because again, I can't do the work without you. Cinnamon Storm says, I mean, they also say it's Trump's fault, but they don't want Card Page to testify why. It's because he knows something Democrats don't, like whole truth in this case. Charles Davis asks, has anyone heard of the Red Pill Expo? Only 3 of 12 topics listed. Is it pertinent? Yeah, the Red Pill Expo, I'd strongly recommend going to if you're interested. There's going to be a lot of great speakers there. Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media has been working very hard to help organize the event. So there's a lot of information on his channel. I'd encourage you to check that out. And it's potential I'll go there if finances can afford it, because there's a lot of great people there that you can interview. Red Pill Expo, thanks for the comment. Go check it out. Just do a search, you'll find it. This is G. Edward Griffin's event that is going to become annual, and this is the first one. I would love to go. Guys like James Corbett are going to be speaking there. Guys like Lord Moncton is an interesting character who I'd love to interview again. I spoke with him in Vegas at a conference. A lot of great speakers going to be there. So yeah, absolutely, it's worth checking out. All right, let me know if you have any more questions about the agenda. Smith Jones says James Corbett is so deadpan. I love James. Me and him have been friends since the beginning. We both started our channels in around the same time in 2006, and he's been watching my stuff ever since, and I've been watching his stuff ever since, and we've become friends over the years, and it's great to meet him at Anarchapulco, at the first annual Anarchapulco. Got a chance to, hang out with him in person. He's a great guy. In fact, I'll say this while I'm here, why not? He's the only person, the only YouTuber who I've sometimes shared his videos without actually watching the whole thing. I wouldn't do that with anybody, except for James Corbett. I feel that solid about his research and information that, sometimes I'm halfway through a video and I share it without even finish watching it. Again, I wouldn't do that with anyone else, but I trust Corbett quite a bit. And if you guys don't know him, you really should subscribe. CorbettReport.com. Will you be covering the UK elections, asks, I think it was Ian. Yeah, I'll be covering as much as I can. I don't know that I'll necessarily be there. But yeah, absolutely, we'll be covering that. Lee Beasy asks, you should meet up with Lee Stewie when she gets there. Absolutely. Lee and I have plans already to meet up. I met Lee a long time ago in Toronto when she came to the screening of one of my films, Into the Fire, that we had in, I don't even remember what year, 2011 maybe? Yeah, we've been friends ever since. So yes, we will be covering this together. You'll probably see her on my live feed and me on her live feed. And it's so great to see more and more people getting involved to this extent. I love it. It's encouraging. It means that we're on to something, and I think they're worried about it. Like I said, back in 2006, it was Jim Tucker, Alex Jones, Daniel Estulon, and me. That was it, and maybe 10 protesters. And look how far this has come. Hundreds of journalists show up now, independent media. We're not really getting the mainstream yet, but independent media is all over this thing. And sometimes there's thousands of protesters who show up now. I mean, in Watford, England, there must have been a couple thousand people who showed up. That's huge compared to, my first attendance in 2006. So there's an exponential progression here. Just as I said, that yes, they are, working hard at formulating this agenda, this globalization plan. But the resistance has equally been growing beside it. And here we are in 2017. There's some serious people showing up here. There's a lot of great YouTubers, a lot of great content creators, journalists, guys like Tim Pool, guys like Luke Rudowski, Lee Stewie, B. Rich, some of Dabu Seven's guys, who help out with his channels. Anthony Antonello, I think, is possibly coming. I saw Rich Harris, I believe his name is coming. A whole bunch of journalists. I've got a lot of journalist friends who are coming here, and it's a beautiful thing to see. It really, really is. I'm so glad to see the progression that we're seeing now. And it hasn't been easy. It's been a tough road, as you know, dealing with arrests and intimidation tactics and police setups and all that sort of stuff. Warrantless searches and all the kind of things I've had to go through. But at least we're now to the point where people are starting to realize, hey, there's something to this. Why does a guy, just a Canadian journalist, show up to this thing and get harassed just for filming, just for trying to get coverage of who the attendees are? That has shone some light on the Bilderberg group because of, blocking my ability to try to cover this. It only shone more light on the situation. And as I said, they've since been forced to put out an official website, bilderbergmeetings.org. They didn't want to do that, but it got to the point where it had to be done. This is where we're at. Did you need the room, or?
I need to vacuum this room for tomorrow.
Okay.
So how long are you going to be?
Not sure. When do you need me at?
Another hour?
That'd be awesome.
Okay.
Thank you. Again, if you're just tuning in, I'm here at a hotel in Chantilly, Virginia to cover the Bilderberg meeting. I'm just in the meeting room here, and I guess the staff want to come in and vacuum. So obviously that's going to be really loud, so whenever he comes back, we'll have to end the broadcast. He said we'll let it go for another hour. Wow, we've already been going for a little over an hour. But again, we have the list. Let the brother vacuum. He will, in an hour. Everyone's been really nice around here so far. Again, this thing hasn't even started. We're just getting started here. Tomorrow's a big day, but Saturday's going to be the big day. We're probably going to see a lot more people show up. Alan Ewert, the Bilderbergers decide on what happens globally over the next 12 months, geopolitically and economically. That seems to be the case. Yeah, that's a speculative comment, but based on, it's founded on truth. Again, we're left to speculate here because they do not publish the meetings of the minutes. And as we said earlier, some would argue that, hey, what's wrong with people being able to have a frank discussion off the records? Well, there's a lot of things wrong with that. When you're an elected official and you're using tax dollars to get here, let's not forget that, and you're discussing foreign policy, in secret, and not publishing the meetings of the minutes, I have a problem with that. I feel this is information people should be privy to. But yeah, a lot of people argue against that point. Again, if you want to see the official list for yourself, the participants list and the agenda list, it's on my Twitter right now, Dan Dix PFT. And also at Press for Truth. I didn't put it there. It's on Dan Dix PFT Twitter. You can also follow me on my Instagram, Dan Dix PFT, my Facebook, Press for Truth, and the Twitter. Smith Jones asks, Dan, do you think the Bilderberg Group is selecting leadership of democratic nations? Well, it's interesting, this concept of taking out secular dictators, doesn't matter if it's secular, but taking them out and installing democratic leaders in these nations. I'm not a fan of democracy myself. To me, it seems as a vehicle for manipulation and control. It's become the illusion of choice, essentially. It's a great way to convince the people that they actually have a say. They are the ones who are bringing these people into power. But I think the reality of that disappeared a long time ago. And there's not a true democracy. And why would you want one anyways? 51% of people controlling the 49% is not a good deal. I mean, what happens when you're in the 49% and you disagree with everything that's going on? I've never been a fan of democracy myself. But yes, because I see them going into countries in the Middle East to set up their centralized Rothschild banks and to put in puppet leaders, wiping out good leaders sometimes. I mean, here's an example about in the French Revolution. People think that Marie Antoinette said, "Let them eat cake," and the people rose up and overthrew them. That's not true history. What's you're not going to learn in school in the history books is that there was a secret society back then. I think they were called the Jacobins, who eventually went on to work with the Illuminati, who manipulated the grain market. Okay, so people started starving to death, not at the hands of the kings and queens, but it was at the hands of these secret societies who wanted to overthrow the kings and queens and install their system of democracy, which is easily controllable. So maybe she was a good queen and had to be taken out, and so that they can control the population through their democratic process of choosing overseer goody A or overseer goody B. Which slave plantation do you want to be on? The guy, who beats me 10 times a day, or the guy who beats me 5 times a day? That's essentially the choices that it came down to. In 2016, did the Bilderbergers want Brexit? Thanks for the question. No, I don't think they wanted Brexit. Brexit is a huge problem for the Bilderberg group. We've documented many times that, Etienne Davignon, for example, instrumental in the formation of the Bilderberg group, openly admitted on film that they were responsible for the formation of the European Union and the Euro. So it's been their dreams and goals since 1954. Brexit is like a thorn in the side of these guys, and it's almost like it's probably a word that makes them shudder, because they've been working very, very, very hard on bringing these unions together. As we talked about earlier in the broadcast, it's often done incrementally. These various free trade agreements and all these sorts of things lead towards these unions. And where do you think the unions are leading? The European Union, the African Union, the soon-to-be North American Union. It's all about unifying everything together under this singular umbrella where they can bring it all together into the New World Order, global system of control. That's the end game. That's, in my opinion, the goals of organizations like Bilderberg, is to formulate a world government incrementally through various means. We talked about this before, too, that it's not necessarily everyone who attends here is into any kind of nefarious agendas. Go watch my video where I confronted Peter Sutherland of Goldman Sachs, and he was out for a walk in Copenhagen with a young new attendee of Bilderberg. He was he was from Ireland, and it was his first time attending. And Sutherland didn't want to talk to us, but this guy from Ireland was pretty open because he's kind of new. And I got the genuine feel from him that he was telling the truth when he said, "I don't think nothing nefarious is going on here." And I said, "Well, perhaps there, trying to find out how much you're willing to play along. And I gave the guy said, this is just a warning, let's say, to be weary of what their intentions are for you. And I tend to believe the guy that he doesn't think there's anything nefarious going on there. In fact, I said earlier in this broadcast, I happen to feel it's probably close to maybe 85% of Bilderberg attendees are not into anything nefarious necessarily or have any kind of knowledge of this agenda for a global government. But, they're still being invited and want to just check it out. And as I said, admittedly, pure speculation, but I feel a lot of the real things that get done is when, like, Kissinger or, Rockefeller, when he was around, would take somebody aside and have a little private conversation at the bar, over the course of these 3 days, or when they're on the golf course or something like that. And that's likely where the real deals get made. That video you made is pretty well known in Ireland, says Tom Seaver. That's interesting. I did not know that. Let's see if I can... I threw together a playlist, by the way, everyone, of my Bilderberg coverage over the years, and I've got 60-something videos in there. So check it out when you get the chance. Yeah, I was going to search for some of the Bilderberg stuff here. Let me just quickly show you. That's the guy, Bilderberg Steering Committee member Jacob Wallenberg, who I got when he was, he's a billionaire, and he didn't realize I was confronting him. Here's that one I was talking about earlier. Bilderberg documents leaked. The Iraq war plan exposed. Again, I'll put a link in the description as soon as this video is done to the playlist of all my Bilderberg coverage. You can actually find it on my website as well under extensive Bilderberg coverage, where, as we said, I've been covering it since 2006, so I guess 11 years now, and I'm really pleased to see the progression of the movement and the amount of independent media and journalists who show up to these things now. It's something that deserves paying attention to. I mean, people make comments like, oh, what's the point of just going there to yell at cars as they pull in and out? I agree. That's not going to accomplish anything. That's not what I do when I come here. That's not my plans, is to just shout at some cars rolling in and out. No, I want to gain some intel. I want to interview people. I want to, find discrepancies in the participants list. And you never know what you're going to find. You can't know what you're going to discover until you come here and check it out. What enslaves us more than the internet? Tobias Benminder Gattaker asks. Finances? Fiat currency? Creating money out of nothing? I would say that's one of the main things to enslave humanity right now that these guys have a pretty good handle on. When you're in debt, when you have mortgages, multiple mortgages, line of credits, number of credit cards, these guys have their fingers around your neck, and they can just squeeze at any time. Interest rates go up by 0.5%. Half the country's screwed. So one of the best ways to remove yourself from this system is to get out of debt. Obviously, that's easier said than done. We're born into a time and age here where just even your average family, both parents have to work all the time to even just scrape by. But perhaps living a little more modestly, perhaps, selling things and buying something you can own outright. And if that means it has to be a much smaller house and is not as nice as what you're used to, but at least you'll own it outright and not be, enslaved to the banks. That's one of the best ways to defeat this system. For me, global non-compliance is where it's at. Just step out and say, I'm not going to have a part of this anymore. That's why I don't vote. I've never voted. I try my best to not have any debts. As I said, we're in this fiat currency system where that's just how it's been designed, very cleverly. But one of the best ways to get away from the control of the clutches of their control is to not be in debt. That's huge. Okay, a whole bunch of comments have been flying by. So let me just try to scroll back here. Okay, a whole bunch of comments, not a lot of questions. But again, if you guys, somebody's asking about Bitcoin, the dichotomy of good and evil, what will you do without the internet? Okay, we got a bunch of questions here. Bitcoin is something that is very possible that's on the discussion this year because of the recent very huge spikes and increase in the overall market cap of cryptocurrencies has doubled and tripled, I think, in just the last few months. Really, really interesting. A lot of people wonder, is this a Trojan horse? Was this the design of guys like these? That want to enslave people financially under something that appears to be, decentralized. But I've often wondered, what does somebody like the Rothschilds think about Bitcoin? I mean, these guys have been setting up their centralized bank, for centuries, and there's their whole system of fiat control. They're not going to allow something like the Bitcoin to just come along and take it all away from them. So I used to, wonder, is this a Trojan horse, or is this really legit? Is this mysterious creator, Mr. Nakamoto or something, I can't remember his name, is he legit? Or was it a military creation, by the CIA as a Trojan horse to track everything you do? Because let's face it, the blockchain is transparent. Every single transaction you do can be traced, and you add metadata to that, and they can find you. They can see where you did your transactions, and it's pretty easy global system to track. But at the same time, this could be the revolution that's growing to stop it, So I'm kind of on the fence with Bitcoin, to be quite honest, with all of them, really. I've been talking about the dangers of a cashless society for well over a decade, and the fact that the world is moving towards a digital cashless society, and the fact that is bad. And then we saw the introduction of these digital currencies, which is becoming a global phenomenon. So sure, I see the beginning. Some of these things could be the beginning of this cashless society future. And there's all sorts of them popping up now. Ethereum, Monero, Dash, Ripple, the Bitcoin for the banks. There's all sorts of them popping up now. So it will be interesting to see if they talk about that. One of the questions, I think, was the dichotomy of good and evil. That's a pretty huge topic, but I do think that that's something important to focus on, and to remember that, a lot of this stuff is not just what you can see in front of you. A lot of these people are spiritual. A lot of these people, as we talked about earlier, are heavily steeped in the occult. A lot of them have a very solid understanding of the Bible, and the stories of the Tower of Babel and the Garden of Eden, and they just have a different interpretation of it. But yes, a lot of these people are into this, and I believe we're engaged in spiritual warfare. Essentially, is what is actually taking place behind the scenes. Again, if you're a billionaire who takes time out of your busy schedule to do a 3-day retreat at Bohemian Grove, these guys don't take that much time out of their schedule. They'd rather be making money, but that means there's something to this. They're smart guys. They're controlling the world. They've become billionaires, and they're into the occult. Makes me think there's certainly something to it, because there is. I've seen it in my own experiences in life. That I feel there is more than meets the eye. There are things that are essentially out there that you can't see, that are potentially tappable. Like right now, all around me, I'm surrounded by waves, this wireless internet connection. Because I can't see it, it doesn't mean it's not there. And so the dichotomy of good and evil is something I feel is real. And I think a lot of these people are heavily steeped in the occult, and they're, being manipulated. Okay, sorry, let me scroll back. Yes, spiritual warfare, absolutely. OWO is Satanism. We are in spiritual warfare. Yes, C-Star, agreed. It is absolutely spiritual warfare. That's why you need to be spiritually fed and, spiritually sound. You got to be based on, you have a solid base. And if you're not familiar with the Bible, I would suggest checking it out. It's the most fascinating book to me, to be honest. It's the most controversial book probably all throughout history. And every time I crack it open, I'm fascinated by it. I enjoy reading the Bible, and I got to do it more. And I think more people should. It's a fascinating read. And like I said, I think it's the most controversial book in the world, and we are engaged in spiritual warfare. So if you're not aware of that aspect of this, if you're missing that side of the big picture here from the New World Order plan, you're never going to understand the true agendas. So just check it out. Again, these guys are into the occult. This is documentably provable. So perhaps there's something to it. If NASA is such a scam, then why are some of the money guys investing in it? I'm not sure what you're referring to there. Who's investing in NAFTA or why it's a scam? I know it's certainly a lot of things that come out of there are, appear to be made up. I'm not talking about flat Earth or anything, which again, I think there's a healthy skepticism. I'm glad people are to the point of questioning things as major as that, but I do see that one as a psyop that's been successful at muddying the waters, so to speak, which perhaps I'll make a video on someday. Two sides of every side in between. Spiritual armed is what we need to do to protect ourselves. Somebody pointed out in the comments that we got a flat earther in here going nuts. I don't want to offend you guys. I like that you're questioning what you've been told about the nature of reality. That's good to have a healthy skepticism about what the government says is real and what isn't. But we have to remember how to critically think. Someone who is deluded believes something that is not true. What else? Flat Earth is disinfo. There are three sides to every story: your story, their story, and the truth. I had a discussion with somebody last night about the concept of absolute truth and whether or not that exists, and I believe it does. And this person made the argument that it doesn't necessarily. So I suggested, well, what about 2 + 2 = 4? Is that not an absolute truth? And this person said, well, our understanding of physics, and science and lots of things have changed over time. So could it not be possible that someday we discover that there could be more answers? And I just don't. I don't think so. Today, here in the now, 2 + 2 = 4. There's no way getting around that. And I do think there is absolute truth, essentially. What kind of a world would this be if there wasn't? Everything, you'd just be completely neutral and foreverly agnostic, which again is dangerous in my opinion. Okay, more comments and questions flying by. Let's see if I can get to all these. Hi, Dan from the Sunshine Beach. Hello. Whose truth? Good question. Last time, otherwise I'm spamming. Good to see you, Dan. Technical analysis and stock markets show that a big event is coming. What do you think? Good question. Thank you for that. I absolutely can get the sense that something is coming down the road as far as a major dollar crash. And I think that's why we've been seeing huge investments in Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, because people in China and Japan and South Korea are realizing that, with Donald Trump in power and the way things are going, it seems like a golden opportunity for these elitists to crash the dollar in order to bring about their globalized world cash system. So it seems people are investing in protecting their assets outside of the dollar and looking into things like cryptocurrencies and gold and silver, which I think is a really good idea. I would strongly recommend that if you do have assets you want to protect, don't keep it in the bank. Invest in some gold, invest in some silver, and perhaps a small percentage of your portfolio could go into cryptocurrencies. But I would more so recommend gold and silver to protect yourself against the coming crash. I do think a lot of people are sensing this right now and are moving towards cryptocurrencies to protect themselves. But that could all disappear any day, any second, right? It's the flip of a switch. If the internet dies, so do your Bitcoins. If the kill switch is enacted, say goodbye to Ethereum and Dash and Monero and whatever else you've invested your hard-earned money in. Gold and silver is tangible. It's something you can actually hold in your hand. And it's always going to be worth something to someone. So I'm not saying don't get into the cryptos, but I'm just saying be wise about it. Because it could be gone in the flash of an eye. Okay, let's see. Tobias says, plant your own food. Yes, we'll get into that. Paper wallet backup, says Dave Packinson. If you are storing your currencies on an exchange website or a wallet that is simply on your phone, you're hackable, and you could be subject to having your money stolen. I personally have friends. I know a few people who have lost hundreds of thousands of dollars by having their accounts hacked. I had a friend of mine who was involved in the Mt. Gox situation. He lost, I think it was 15 Bitcoins. I had another friend of mine who got hacked on Bittrex website and lost 125 Bitcoins. I mean, this is significant. So what David was suggesting was to protect yourself with a paper wallet or cold wallet, they're called, where you're essentially taking your cryptocurrencies off of the exchange and you're storing a private secured key on like a USB key or something. It's kind of the equivalent to burying your gold in the backyard instead of having it stored in a vault. So yes, very good advice to encrypt your secret key onto a cold wallet. But you have to be careful about how you do that. You don't want to be connected to the internet when you transfer the info to your USB. If you're going to put it on paper backup, you don't want to print it on a printer that has Wi-Fi. These things can be hacked. So yes, if you're going to get into cryptocurrencies, you better do a lot of research about the technical aspects of it before you start engaging in any kind of trading, because you may lose some money. Okay, I'll try to get to a lot more of these. What happens to crypto after EMP CMV event? Yeah, exactly. It could all disappear in the flash. In any given second, cryptos could be gone. You're taking a chance with anything. I mean, that's why I said don't put all your eggs in one basket. But certainly it's not a bad idea to put some in there. Yes, then they will turn off the chip because you commit a thought crime, says Mark. Alan Zanetti says, dark occultists condition our minds with propaganda so we don't realize our infinite potentials. Free energy concepts like industrial hemp, Tesla technology. Yeah, this world would be a very, very different place if we had a truly open free market and people were able to actually progress without being gobbled up by the oligarchs. There's no such thing as a free market. I haven't seen one yet. That obviously could be argued, but I don't think we have a truly open free market, and society would be progressing a lot further along today if we did actually have one. The current so-called free market is an illusion, in my opinion. There's, corporations are in bed with government. It goes on and on. There's nothing free and open about this whatsoever. All markets are manipulated, even crypto markets, says Lee Beasy. Yeah, all markets are manipulatable. In fact, I just interviewed Peter Schiff of, he's got a bunch of companies. Peter Schiff a couple of days ago about just that. The potential of the manipulation of the gold market, and we didn't really get into the manipulation of cryptocurrencies, but we talked about manipulation of gold. So check that one out. It's called, here it is right here. Peter Schiff on gold manipulation and the future of cryptocurrencies. Video I just put out yesterday, I guess. Again, we started the broadcast by talking about the official agenda that's just been released, and also the official participants list, which, as we know, is never official, because we often find discrepancies in the list, which is often very, very telling. Mark Eris asked, is Scheer going to be there? I'm certainly going to have my eyes out for newly selected Andrew Scheer, leader of the Conservative Party, because as we know, when these guys show up a couple of years before election time, pretty good chance he's going to end up being the next Prime Minister of Canada if I do see him here. His name is not on the list, but that does not mean that he's not going to be here. So I'm absolutely, he kind of popped up new for me on my radar, but I've studied his face. I'm going to be watching for him, and I'll have my cameras ready to get the shot if he is here. Dan, are you able to attend lectures? Asks Charles Davis. Yes, I'm not sure what you mean by that. I attend lectures. I give them sometimes. I watch them. I'm not able to attend these ones. We tried it once. Myself and Luke Rudowski actually got, and Jeff Berwick, were in the Bilderberg Hotel during a lockdown. Was that last year? It's all running into each other. Maybe it was the year before, but we got inside. It was in Austria, actually, year before, while it was on lockdown. And Luke and I managed to see the inside of the Bilderberg meeting room. That was fascinating. There was about 100 chairs, all in a half circular formation, kind of like a university classroom with bleachered benches styled like bleachers, every single table had a microphone at it, and at the front of the room they had this huge screen, which I was wondering, maybe they Skype people in, or maybe whoever's currently talking, their face is popped up on the screen so everybody can see. But I managed to see the inside of the room, and I'm scrambling for my phone to take a picture, and security was on top of us, like right away. They ran over, you guys can't be in here, you can't be in here, and basically pulled us out of there. So unfortunately, I didn't get to get a shot of it or any footage of it. But it was interesting to see the inside of the meeting room where they actually, have these discussions with 120 to 140 of these people. Again, we're talking about some of the most powerful and influential people in the world getting together to discuss things off the record in secret, talking about foreign policy, talking about what to do with the European situation, what to do with China, what to do with Russia. This is all openly admitted now on the agenda list, which was just published this morning. Again, I put that out at my Twitter, Dan Dix PFT. So if you want to look it up for yourself, check it out. It's on Dan Dix PFT Twitter. And we've gone over some of the notable names. New one here that's very interesting is Director General of CERN, the Hadron Collider thing there, CERN. Very, very interesting that he's here. Okay, we've got a lot more questions and comments. Say hi to Mr. Skelton. Charlie Skelton's a great guy and journalist. He's been covering these for a long time. If you're not aware, he sometimes writes for, I think it's the London Guardian. He's a bit of an independent freelance journalist, so he gets picked up by various publications that want to publish his stuff. But he actually started coming to Bilderberg to expose people like me. He wanted to come. His first time at Bilderberg was to show how silly these conspiracy theorists are. But then he started seeing how we're being harassed, and he himself started getting followed, and he was like, whoa, maybe there's something more to this. And eventually, he realized, yeah, this is worth exposing, and he's been coming ever since, and he's a great guy. He hooked me up last year. No, the year before. I didn't have a place to stay. I didn't have a hotel room, and he let me crash, with him, which is very, very nice of him. Great guy. Let's see what else we got. Did y'all spy Skelton in the background of the recent We Are Change video? Yes, I saw that. There was a lot of friends of mine in the background of that video. Charlie Skelton, John Scovey, Silky Carlo, Tony Goslin was there. These are all friends of mine from, covering Bilderberg in Watford, England, a number of years ago. It was great to see those guys. Why would the security of Bilderberg be interested in this? Maybe you can rephrase the question. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by this, but let me know. We'll get to it. Okay, sorry guys, trying to scroll through to find more questions. Cass C or Sai asks, Dan, why are a lot of terrorist attacks related to the number 22? 22 of March, 22 of May, people died. I'm going to a Coldplay on the 22nd, 22th. I'm almost scared. We do know that within these occultic societies that we do know these people do attend, they are interested in numerology. This is not conspiracy theory. It is a fact that these guys attend occultic ceremonies and are interested in numerology. And I don't know about the 22. I've seen the lists. I've seen all the things going around about all the different attacks on that date. There could be something to it because I know they're into numerology, or it could very well just be, coincidence. Sometimes when you look for certain things, you'll find it, if you continue to look for it. Like people who say, every time I look at the clock, it says 11:11. It's like, well, you don't notice, you don't factor in all the times that you looked at the clock and it didn't say that. A lot of people will find what they want to find, when it's not even there. Hope you know what I meant by that. Okay. Don't vote. It shows you actually believe in the system. True grit. Very good point, very good suggestion. I have personally never voted in my life, and I'm kind of proud of the fact that I haven't engaged in that. When people say, if you don't vote, you can't complain. No, it's the other way around. If you did vote, you can't complain. You are responsible for this guy being in there. So the people who say, oh, you don't vote, you have no say in this. No, well, you did vote, so you have no say. And I know I can't be debunked. I try to debunk myself. Smith says I voted for Brexit, and that hurt the globalist plans. Good. I'm glad you did that. Glad to everyone who voted for Brexit. Tough to say how long that's going to take, or if it's actually going to happen, because this is one of the topics of discussion, I'm sure, this year. I mean, they lay it out in the press release that the direction of the EU is one of the talking points. And when you're talking about the direction of the EU, where's it going to go? How could Brexit not be on the table of discussion? Because, yeah, it slows down their globalist dream of formulating a one-world government through the unification of these various unions incrementally. Steel Rain asks, what do you think about Andrew Scheer, leader of the Conservative Party? Is he a globalist too? Time will tell. He's new on my radar, admittedly. I'm focusing on... I'm certainly going to have my eyes out for him here at this conference. As we said earlier in the broadcast, pretty good chance he'll be the next Prime Minister of Canada if he does end up being here. I questioned Justin Trudeau on that a few times, actually. I asked Justin if he's been going to the Bilderberg group twice, and both times he said he's never been invited and he's never attended. And I tend to believe him. I've been coming, this is my 11th year. I've come consecutively to every one since 2012, and I haven't seen him. And, it's interesting that Stephen Harper attended in 2003. 2 years later, he becomes Prime Minister. Similar thing with, I think it was Tony Blair in 1991. A few years later, becomes Prime Minister. So I'm going to be keeping a very close eye for him. Smith Jones, you're getting a lot of comments and questions here. Good for you. Look, I know that the lot I watched this truth movement evolve, I remember Charlie Veitch and the Love Police flip on 9/11. Yeah, that's a whole nother topic of discussion right there. We're kind of getting off track from Bilderberg and the agenda and the participants list, but that was crazy. I talked about, Charlie Veitch's flip and the fact that, just my association with him, everybody branded me as a shill once he did that. And we featured him heavily in my film, Into the Fire. And when he did that, it was right at the time of our releasing that film. And it was just like, oh, man, what are you doing? And then when he went on the BBC and went on that tour and visited, Shanksville and spoke with victims' family members and stuff, and was basically convinced by the CIA that the official story is true. He was wearing a Press for Truth t-shirt in that documentary. I'm watching it going, oh, man, I'm going to be... everyone's going to think I'm a shill because I'm associated with this guy. But, a lot of people in this movement come and go. I've seen it over the years. A lot of people get into this, get really active, get very popular, maybe for a couple of years, and then all of a sudden they fade out and disappear. You have to be consistent. If you want to have a say or a voice in this movement, consistency is key. I was making videos for years and years and years before anybody was really paying attention. I mean, there was a period there where I felt that I was producing gold and nobody was watching. But if I just gave up, Press for Truth wouldn't be what it is today. I've made 5 documentary films since then. We've covered so much, and it was just persistence, really. But you can tell in the movement who's genuine, and who the posers are, and the people who are there for the wrong reasons. Some people are there for, fame. If you're there for money, you're very wrong, unless you could become an Alex Jones. But there's a lot of people get into this for hero worship and to be idolized. And if that's your intentions, people are going to spot you right away for being the phony that you are. And, when you're true, you're genuine, and you're honest, some of those things will come as a result. But if that's your intention, you're never going to be successful. But if you just remain true to yourself and be real, some of those things may happen to you. It's not necessarily good. I don't want anybody, hero worship or looking up to me or looking to me for definitive answers. I want to encourage people to become their own press for truth, to start their own independent news channel, to do research into these topics themselves. That's my goal, is to exponentially spread truth with a capital T all around the world. That's always been my goals from the beginning. Okay. Wow, lots of comments going by. Sorry, I've been missing a lot of these. I'm interested to learn who will be taking David's place. Yeah. His son, I think, David as well, I think he's like in his 50s. And I remember looking at that when he died, thinking, okay, here's the new one that the torch is being passed on to. But again, a lot of these guys have bloodlines that have been hidden with name changes and fake marriages and stuff. They hide their lineage a lot of the times, as is in the case of the Rothschilds. This has happened throughout history, where the wealth of the wealth wants to be maintained within the family, so they don't marry outside of the family. Sometimes they'll stick to marrying cousins, literally, to keep the wealth within the family. That's very real within these oligarchic societies. Can we see the list somewhere? Asks Kehos. Yes, I posted it on my Twitter. Dan at Press for Truth. Dan Dix PFT is my Twitter. You can also go to the website. It's bilderbergmeetings.org. And I'll show you where you can find it there. So you get to the homepage of bilderbergmeetings.org. Scroll down to the bottom here where it says the list can be found here. When you click on that, you're going to be opened up to the participants list, and you can peruse everybody who's going to be in attendance here in the next few days according to their official list. And then if you just click here on press release, you'll see the all of the topics on the agenda for this year. And as Lee Beasy said, they'll never put the juiciest names on the list. Exactly. And that's why I'm here, to try to document some of those discrepancies. And, try to get to the bottom, or at least provide some intel into what's being discussed here that the mainstream media simply just isn't doing. Most, if not all, of those names are fake. Could be. Judaism has nothing to do with Zionism, but all Zionists will insist the contrary, says Gazwazel? I don't know. Don't believe, start to know your surroundings, get to know your bleep. Here's a question. Mark Aris, how long do you think Canadians can stand all these massive price hikes on utility and energy? And do you think these hikes are a part of the 2030 agenda? Yeah, good question. There's been a massive move, especially where I'm living now on the left coast, where Agenda 2030, or is Agenda 21 as it used to be called, is really on the fast track, where essentially it's controlling every single aspect of nature and and life, essentially. So look into the watermelon left coast, as we call it, very green on the outside, totally red on the inside, where the agenda is accelerating quite a bit. And as we said before, in regards to like the name changes, like in the free trade agreement, that's what you're seeing there as well. Here on the Lower Mainland, we are coming to the breaking point. Dan, can you give a summary of the possible options for the members in regards to each topic on the agenda? yeah, we kind of went through each topic. If there's anything specific you want me to go through, let me know. Or we can go through them all again. Somebody's asking, do I miss Toronto? No, not really. Haven't really thought about it much since I left. Steel Rain asks, is marijuana actually going to be legalized in Canada next year? Oh, man. I've been covering this one for a long time. Next year, probably not. Trudeau government is constantly being pushing this back because they need to get their ducks in a line, essentially. Legalization is inevitable. It's going to be happening. And the Canadian government right now is trying to monopolize the industry and bring in Marijuana Inc., as I call it, by wiping out the DGs, the designated growers, and bringing in all these LPs, the licensed producers. And it's only if you're on the inside will you be issued one of these licenses to produce medical marijuana in Canada. So they're trying to gain a monopoly over that industry before it becomes legalized. I expose this a great deal in my film, The Trudeau Deception. If you're curious about the future of the legalization of cannabis in Canada, yes, check out The Trudeau Deception. And if you just go to my YouTube channel and type in the word cannabis into the search feature, you'll find a whole bunch of videos where we cover that extensively. Like I just did that. Canada passes that Good Samaritan Act. That's interesting. Announcing legal cannabis in Canada, what you need to know. That would be a good one for you. Legalization of cannabis by 2018, what you need to know. Check that one out. Cannabis illegal, opioids illegal. The money behind the laws. Cannabis growers of Canada unite against Trudeau. I've covered this quite a bit. Victory for Canadian cannabis growers in the Allard versus Queen case. Legalization of cannabis in Canada, live. PFT live. As you can see, I covered it a lot. Ex-police chief Bill Blair to guide Liberals on cannabis legalization. We covered all of the 420 protests here in Vancouver. Medical marijuana and the MMPR from patients to criminals. Marijuana in the post-prohibition world. As you can see, I've done tons of videos interviewing, Jody Emery and Rick Simpson, and I exposed Mark Emery as the douche he was for rallying the youth of Canada to vote for Trudeau, all under the guise of the legalization ticket. And Mark famously said to me, "Your concerns are not my concerns." Well, I wonder how concerned he is now, now that he was just arrested and forced to live in Ontario now, and things are not going so good for him. Perhaps he won't be putting all his eggs in the status basket anymore. You're welcome, Steel Rain. Wee Man. I've been to Amsterdam twice. Cool story, bro. Sorry, I'll try to scroll back again. Weed is harmless. Rick Simpson liked it. Allowed to monetize those cannabis vids.
We're gonna need to wrap it up.
Okay.
To get people in.
Sure. All right, guys. Again, I'm in the meeting room of a hotel, and they need access to the space now. We've been going for about an hour and a half, so it's probably a good time to wrap it up anyways. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to, continue our coverage here at Bilderberg. Again, we're just getting started. This thing doesn't even begin until tomorrow. So we're here on the grounds. I'll be doing my best to document all of the attendees, and we'll continue to focus on some of these agendas and try to get some interviews, try to get some documentable footage of attendees, try to find these discrepancies, and just try to be here on the grounds for you and for me. I mean, I'm absolutely curious, and I genuinely want to, talk to these people, open up the dialogue. And the only way you can do that is by coming here. So thank you so much for everybody who's ever contributed to my cause. I've been doing Press for Truth since 2006, and as I said, it was a struggle over the years, but it seems I've gotten to a point where people are starting to listen and pay attention, and I'm thankful for that. And anybody who supports us financially, I want to let you know we cannot do it without you. So if you appreciate the work we're doing, please check out the links in the description. It'll take me a second to get them linked in here once the video is done. But you can join us on patreon.com/pressfortruth. This is where you can sign up for a monthly amount, any amount you want. You could contribute $1 a month, $2, $5, $10, whatever you want. Helps me. It goes towards me being able to produce better videos, better content, having the gear, the finances to be able to attend the events, and the maintenance of the website, and there's a lot of stuff that goes into this. So if you have it within your heart to want to contribute, we also have a link to where you can donate. My PayPal link to where you can donate. We also accept Bitcoin. You can find my Bitcoin address in the description below. So again, without your patronage, without your donations, I wouldn't be here. So I want to thank the audience today from the bottom of my heart for sticking with me here over the years. I'm certainly not going to be slowing down anytime soon. I feel like I'm just getting started here, and we got this. So thank you guys once again. Check the links in the description where you can get involved as a patron at patreon.com/pressfortruth, where you can donate. Thank you so much for everyone who tuned in. We're going to be back with more video reports very soon. I'll be here on the grounds until June 6th. So I've got lots more coverage to come. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again soon. Take care.